This series was funded by great viewers just like you over on Patreon. Check out the description or end of the video to hear how you can take part in making the show even more amazing. Hey everyone, Gaijin Goombah here, and welcome back to another episode of Which Ninja? A series that looks at media's most popular shinobi to see which are good and which are bad.
Well, with all the E3 hype surrounding the Final Fantasy VII Remake, we figured it would be good to put resident Wutai ninja Yuffie on the Patreon vote list, and, wow, you guys really wanted this one, huh?
Remake hype aside, it's not hard to understand why. I mean, she is in our intro for crying out loud.
On the bad ninja side.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that the internet-wide consensus is that Yuffie isn't exactly the greatest ninja the Final Fantasy series has ever seen. Ninja characters like Shadow, Edge, and Yugiri at first glance seem to really dwarf Yuffie, whose immediate appearance and combat style don't really do her any favors trying to convince the player that she really is a ninja. But we've been surprised before at just how ninja some of the theoretical worsts really are, so I think it's only fair that we give Yuffie a fair shot.
Alright, fine, but you'll have to forgive my skepticism. Because right alongside about 90% of the internet, I'm having a hard time figuring out how exactly Yuffie could be a decent ninja compared to the history of what we know Shinobi to be. For one, her attitude and demeanor are really demonstrous for a so-called ninja. This gal goes around not only introducing herself with her real name and identity, but out of all of the characters except for maybe Sid, she's the brashest, most aggressive, and cockiest member of the group. Self-absorbed behavior do not a good ninja make, as many self-serving ninja like Ishikawa Goemon and Kosaka Jinai learned the hard way that when you practice ninjutsu for your own self-gain, it usually doesn't end well for you. Plus, what exactly is she wearing? Booty shorts, a midriff green top, loose socks, and work shoes? And what's up with her buckler and that long canvas sleeve? And this kneecap metal buckle thingy? Someone, please, what in the heck is this? After all, as we always say, real ninja wear blue.
Yeah, but that's predominantly for nighttime infiltration or travel. During the day, a ninja would dress and act in whatever way it needed to blend into the society that they were covertly operating in. And considering the amount of belts, harnesses, and other random pieces of metal everyone seems to be wearing around town, Yuffie is actually pretty modest. But there's more to her than just her choice of clothes and attitude.
Like?
Well, like her stature. Yuffie stands roughly at 5 foot 2 inches, or about 160 centimeters. If we were to average out her body weight compared to the average healthy woman of that height, she'd probably weigh around 100 to 120 pounds. Now then, interestingly enough, when it comes to the Iga Ninja, one of the clans that we actually have a decent amount of written history about, they actually have a rule about ninja size prerequisites. Iga Ninja were required to weigh no more than about 60 kilograms, or 132 pounds, and trained upper body strength by lifting bales of rice of the same weight to be able to readily lift their own body weight with ease. Considering the numbers that we just ran for a woman of Yuffie's height, she easily fits the weight requirement.
Alright, but what about Yuffie's weapon of choice, the 4-point Shuriken? Or let's just call it what it really is, a Fuma Shuriken. A ninja trope as old as time. Seriously, I would love to find out where this ninja cliche comes from because there has never been a single instance of a ninja using a shuriken this big. I mean, how could they? It's impossible to transport covertly, it's massive, it's slow, and it's probably insanely expensive to make. Shinobi were peasants, so it's not like they had a lot of money to kick around.
In this case, yes, absolutely, I 100% agree. This is a massive cliche and never did or even could exist for ninja to really use. Not to mention, there's no earthly way of making something like this have any kind of boomerang-like qualities. But speaking of boomerangs, which are two of Yuffie's alternate weapons, there is actually something to be said about the inspiration behind her giant shuriken weapons. Granted, a lot of these alt weapons are pretty weird, like the Super Ball, the Wind Slash, which is obviously more akin to a Tengu fan as both have properties of wind, and there's the Oritsuru Paper Crane and the Pinwheel. But I would say a good half of her alt weapons are 100% inspired by true-to-life ninja weapons. First, let's cover the easy ones, the Shuriken. First and foremost is her default 4-point Shuriken, which according to Japanese manuals is known as the Juuji or Cross Shuriken. And sure enough, these were one of the dozens of variations of Shuriken that ninja could use. Not only because of its puncturing capability when thrown, but more so due to its utility. Not only does its nail-pronged points allow for it to easily stick into walls, creating improv hooks, but the shuriken itself is actually better suited as a melee weapon, slashing and stabbing at enemies who may only perceive a fist. Remember this for later. Next up is the Magic Shuriken, which is the spitting image of the six-sided or ROPPOU Shuriken. The several edged prongs not only allowed the weapon to have a wider area of impact, but it could also be used in some really unconventional ways, such as sticking them in the ground to be stepped on like a caltrop. Finally, there's the Spiral Shuriken, which without a doubt is inspired by the ninja's well-known Manji Shuriken, named so due to the identical shape of the Manji, an international Eurasian symbol of the sun and traditional symbol of Buddhism. That is until the Nazis ruined its image to the modern world. In any case, not only did this particular shuriken allow for a ninja to create improv hooks even more efficiently than the Juuji Shuriken, but it may also have a symbolic connection to ninjutsu's roots in esoteric Mikyo Buddhism, where ninja staples like the Kuji-in originate from. Now, I was gonna make mention of the Rising Sun, but honestly, there are so many shuriken shapes and sizes that this thing could be based on. Regardless though, I still think there was inspiration there.
Wait, you said half of Yuffie's weapons. That's 4 out of 14.
Well, those were just the shuriken inspirations. There's actually 2 more. Do you see them?
Wait, yeah, the Twin Viper. I guess to the average eyes it may just look like a really exotic chakram, but if you were to pop it apart at the middle, they would look a lot like 2 kama. Basically dual sickles and one of the more well-used and versatile weapon of the ninja, due to its simplicity as a combat weapon, its utility as a climbing and cutting tool, and its ease of transportation considering that most saw this weapon as nothing more than a farm tool. And the other... wait, the Razor Ring. That's a freaking Kanawa!
That's right. In an interview with Asian boss Kawakami Jinichi, one of the last successors of the Koga, demonstrated a razor-ringed weapon known as the Kanawa, or Golden Rings. Bladed at both ends, the Kanawa had the ability to quickly and easily slice off limbs and heads as well as function as a slashing weapon similar to a sword.
Alright, I guess despite being completely nonsensical and realistically dysfunctional, Yuffie's weapons are somewhat on the ball when it comes to what we know about ninja historically, but what about the plot? Granted, Yuffie was able to get away with everyone's materia, but any thief with half a brain could pull that off, so what makes Yuffie so special in that regard?
Well, despite Yuffie being a brash, over-the-top, self-righteous character, what she did when she heisted everyone's materia away was a textbook example of ninja emotional manipulation. No, I get it. Anyone can be emotionally manipulative to get what they want. But for Shinobi, there was an art and a craft to it. Shinobi had 2 very key concepts when it came to psychological manipulation of people: the Mumo no Iseki, or gateless barrier, and the art of not breaking individuals, known as Hito o Tekira Zaru no Narai. By and large, these were psychological principles that preyed on the human concept of reciprocity. In short, a ninja would find specific targets with information, and over a long period of time show them a great deal of kindness and loyalty in order to slowly but surely gain valuable information from their target.
So you mean ninja basically had a long-winded way of buttering up people only to stab them right in the back?
I mean, if you want to simplify it to the greatest degree, sure. But is that not what Yuffie ends up doing to everyone? Playing herself off as the kid and way over her head and way too eager to make friends? And in all of that time, helping out Cloud and the gang in the adversities that they came across, she convinced them to help her in return by going right to where she wanted them to be. It was all part of her plan, which despite so many grumblings from people about her being a trash ninja, she executed perfectly. She even had multiple contingency plans should everyone catch on.
Alright, I'll give her credit for utilizing psychological ninja techniques, despite whether or not she really did utilize it.
One quick side note though, because I think this bears mentioning. According to what we learn in game, Yuffie's home of Wutai had apparently been on the decline for a while. After some sort of war way back when, which they had lost terribly to, the Wutai had gone from a clan of proud, strong ninja to little more than a tourist destination. While not having so much to do with Yuffie specifically, I couldn't help but shake a few parallels. During the reign of Oda Nobunaga, Japan's first post-Warring States period unifier, Nobunaga and his son held a massive campaign against the Iga ninja known as the Tenso Iga no Ran, or the Tenso Iga War in 1581.
Oh, back when the Oda forces invaded Iga territory in hopes of cowing the self-governing ninja. Yeah, the first time the Oda forces attacked, they were really hit back hard. But the second invasion utterly crushed the Iga, fracturing and scattering the clan across the country.
Theoretically similar to what happened with the Wutai. Perhaps not scattering their numbers to the wind, but definitely crushing them in more ways than one. As for the touristy degradation of Wutai, for as much as I love Iga, having been there 3 times now, and as much as I do believe many of the relics in their museum holds history nearly lost to time, I cannot help but feel a lot of what IGA is about now has been dumbed down for the sake of tourism and money, especially when it comes to their various performances and demonstrations. But yeah, just a quick little side point that I want to make mention of.
Huh, that's actually pretty interesting. On the surface, Yuffie really did seem like a dim-witted twit too airheaded to be a shinobi, but based on all that, maybe she ain't so bad. So, what about Yuffie's other appearances, like Advent Children, Kingdom Hearts, and so on? Surely she's got some decent ninja qualities there too, doesn't she?
You might be surprised. Where Yuffie's home game of Final Fantasy VII paints her ninja prowess in a mostly positive light, the various spin-offs don't nearly do her as much justice. Advent Children? Just watch.
Ooh. Yikes.
Then there's Kingdom Hearts, which, yeah, it was nice to see Yuffie again, but she doesn't really do all that much that makes her any sort of decent ninja, fantasy or otherwise. She's a side character, and she kinda gets relegated to that. But I will give her credit that instead of using a gigantic 4-point shuriken as a physically impossible boomerang, she's using realistically sized shuriken.
Yeah, but knowing one of the key strats to trounce her is to knock back the shuriken right into her face is just... ugh. So outside of Final Fantasy VII proper, is there just no hope for this girl?
Actually, no. There is one spin-off game featuring Yuffie that, in all honesty, I think encapsulates her as a good ninja better than any other appearance she's had to date. Yeah, I bet some of you guys forgot this little entry exists. But no joke, in every instance I've seen Yuffie in video games, movies, anime, and beyond, Air Guys, of all things, captures Yuffie's ninjadom in the best light I've seen. And it's all about her combat. Now, like we mentioned before on the show, combat was the absolute last resort for a ninja. Running away with their stolen goods or info and surviving was key, but that did not mean that they weren't trained to take out a foe. In fact, they were trained to do so as quickly and efficiently as possible, using many techniques which are actually in this game. For one, Yuffie uses her giant 4-point shuriken as a melee weapon instead of a thrown weapon, making both logical sense considering its size, but also historical sense since it was far more efficient to use a shuriken as a pocketed blade weapon instead of a thrown one. Remember, we mentioned this earlier. But sure enough, Yuffie does have smaller, more practical shuriken to throw, which don't do an excessive amount of damage but are fast enough to throw off your opponent, much like Ninja did in real life using shuriken as a distraction tool rather than a deadly weapon. Next, another special attack of Yuffie's in this game is the Caltrops throw, which, contrary to popular belief, were not thrown behind oneself as they were easy enough to see being dropped if the pursuer was an eye shot. Ninja would block off certain pathways with Caltrops in order to manipulate both safe and harmful paths of escape. Similarly does Yuffie deny area of movement for her opponents in this game. Finally, Yuffie has her very own Metsubushi or eye closer bomb, a distraction tool used by Ninja that consisted of either a hollowed out egg or package of paper filled with irritants like pepper, salt, flour, ash, and other powders used to briefly blind their foes so that the ninja could escape or deal a deadly blow. And again, just like what Yuffie does in Air Guys.
So, are we really doing this? Are we giving Final Fantasy VII's Yuffie a decent ninja score?
Well, she ain't perfect, I will say that much. Her attitude and self-focused behavior are so blatant and brash that under an actual ninja clan, it would almost be enough to get her nuke-ninned. And we also can't forget the fact that she is walking around wielding a physically impossible weapon in melee, or worse, as a boomerang thrown weapon. Seriously, I can't even imagine how in the world this thing doesn't break her wrists.
But on the other hand, you can easily see the inspirations. Yuffie's weapons have Shinobi written all over them. Well, half of them have Shinobi written all over them. She's just the right size and weight to fulfill the criteria for becoming a ninja, and for as ditzy as she may be, she pulled off some impressive psychological stunts.
So, what do you think? 7 out of 10?
Yeah, I think we can give her a C. Not a spectacular example of a ninja to be sure, but I think she does deserve at least a little bit of credit considering how she's been portrayed in a few games.
But what do you guys think? Is Yuffie a decently solid ninja, or could her choice of attire, attitude, and arsenal use some work? Let us know in the comments below, and a huge thank you to all of our patrons who made this episode possible. I also owe you guys another big thanks for allowing me to take a little extra time to make this one. With my buddy Morto's research help, I was actually able to keep a decent pace. And if you want to get in on either choosing topics for the show, getting a custom message, or even some one-on-one time, be sure to check out Witch Ninja over on Patreon. Otherwise, thanks for watching, everyone, and be sure to check out new episodes of not only Witch Ninja, but also Culture Shock and our brand new show Yokai Watchers right here by subscribing. But until next time, everyone, this is Gaijin Goombah, signing out.